Thomas, thank you so much. All right, let's get started. Welcome everyone. Welcome to Hindi University. Really excited to have all of you this Sunday. As you know, we meet every Sunday, 8 a.m. US Pacific time, which is time in the west coast of the US in the California region. And we learn about the Hindi language. For those of you who are new to Hindi University, you can learn more about us by going to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Hindi University. If you're interested in joining the free interactive sessions we have every Sunday, you can find out more details on this page as well, tiny.cc/Hindi University. We do have I don't want to spam everyone about the reminders every Sunday. So if you want to get the reminder, please do let me know so I can add you to our WhatsApp group as well. That way you will not miss the beginning of the class in case if you don't know the local time in your area. Okay, that's the best way for you to stay apprised of an hour before when the class is starting. Okay, as you know, we are starting a new session today. Which will be, essentially a new class altogether. Last year we finished a book called Rupert Snell's book, Teach Yourself Hindi. This year we are doing two books, Pingu Learns Hindi, which is the book for complete beginners, Pingu Learns Hindi. And the second one we have is Usha Jain's Advanced Hindi Grammar. Okay. So this is a little bit advanced, but we'll try to simplify it as much as we can. And even for the beginners, hopefully you can follow along as we do the topics. But we'll keep the pace in such a way that you don't feel like you are missing out. Okay. But in any case, you let me know. I'll continue to take your feedback and we'll incorporate it into our in our sessions. Okay. With that in mind, if you don't have the copies of the book, you can find the soft copy of this book here, Usha Jain's book, on tiny.cc/Hindi University. Most of you already have Pingu Learns Hindi. In case if you're not able to get it, you let me know and we'll reach out to me separately and we'll figure out how to get you the book. Okay. With that in mind, hopefully all of you can hear the video and the audio clearly. If any issues, you let me know. Okay. So let's get started. So in this class, I want to do the first half of the class. I want to spend time on the Hindi introduction from Pingu Learns Hindi, and in the second half, we'll be focusing on the verb called dena, which is basically the first chapter of Usha Jain's book. There are many use cases of dena. It can be a little bit complex, but today we'll approach this topic not from a grammatical perspective, but how to make very simple sentences using dena. Okay, just a sentence with two words and just repeat that pattern. Okay, so with that in mind, let's get started. So the first thing that I always do when we start the class is, what kind of language is Hindi? Okay. And why it's not a good idea to always translate, because when we learn a language, we enjoy it in the beginning, but then soon we try to go to our mother tongue and we think in our mother tongue. So why is it always better as you're learning the language to just learn it the way the language is spoken, rather than thinking in your native language, whether it is English or French or Italian, and then translate it back in Hindi. Why? Let's look at one of the main reason. So when you look at, as an example, English follows a particular pattern. It's called SVO language. And what do we mean by that? A typical sentence in English. 1 minute, okay? I'm gonna just, if you're not speaking, I'm gonna put you on mute so there's no background noise. Give me 1 minute. Okay, a typical sentence in English will follow an SVO pattern: subject, verb, and object. And what do we mean by that? Let's look at an example: subject, verb, and an object. So let's say you want to say I learn Hindi. That's how you will say it in English, right? You have a subject, which is I, you have verb to learn, and you have an object. What are you learning? You're learning Hindi, right? So typical sentence structure is subject, verb, and object. The same thing in Hindi would be मैं हिंदी सीखता हूँ. Okay, मैं हिंदी सीखता हूँ. So what you have here is you have subject, which is this. You have object, which is Hindi, and you have whom. Okay, verb basically. So what you're doing here is, if you look at Hindi, it is following SOV. Okay, so Hindi is SOV language. So there is a fundamental difference in both the languages, and that's the case for majority of the language. While majority of the language, as per Wikipedia, they follow, if you combine both the group of languages together, over 90% of the languages follow either SOV or SVO pattern. But still, because of this dynamics, there are many more changes, the grammatical changes also that happens within the language. That's why it's not a good idea to just it's better idea to, like, whenever you're learning any language, to just learn in that particular manner. Figure out the pattern the language is following. Okay, so just to repeat again, Hindi is an SOV language. So you have a subject, you have an object after that, and then you have a verb after that. Okay, so just as a fun exercise, try to think about your language. Okay, try to think about your language and see where does it fit. Does it follow SOV pattern or SVO pattern? That's something we do in Pingu Learns Hindi as well. So do that, and feel free to either write it in the Zoom chat, or feel free to write it in the Facebook chat as well. Okay, to see which pattern that is followed by your language. Okay, Yirka, check which pattern does it follow. Is it SOV or SVO?
Czech language is SVO as English.
Oh yeah, SVO is in English. Nice, amazing. What about some of the other? Let's see who we have. Someone who speaks Spanish. Let's say Leah, Romanian and Spanish. Which pattern do you follow?
SVO.
SVO, same thing. Nice. Both of them, Romanian as well.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
I see. And Sarah ji, what about you? Dutch? You probably.
It depends, actually. So sometimes it's subject, object, verb, and other times it's subject, verb, object. So
Okay.
it's a bit flexible, actually.
Okay. Well, Hindi is also flexible if you think about it. By and large, it follows SOV, but you will come across many scenarios where it is breaking it. In English, it is hard to find the pattern where it breaks. Maybe there are like places, but in Hindi, you'll definitely find more and more cases where it breaks it. Like, for example, you probably have heard of that song, like "Mera Juta Hai Japani," right? It clearly breaks that pattern, right? He says "Mera Juta," my shoe, is like from Japan, right? So "Mera Juta Hai," and then he puts Japani after that. So he's really saying SVO, okay? And then similarly, there is one more song, "Mera Naam Hai," Hai Lakhan. So where he is like, again, breaking the pattern. So Hindi also has some flexibility, but again, by and large, it's SOV, okay? So let's get going. And the first thing, again, it's an introductory part, so I want more participation from folks who are complete beginners as well, right? So that just to give me that confidence that you are following it. So first thing you will learn is basically this pronoun called मैं, okay, which is I, okay? And I'm assuming at this point you don't know anything. In the first pattern you need to learn as you're learning the language is this pattern called मैं हूँ, which again means I am. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly pick on one person. Inga, I think you are complete beginner, right? You still with me?
Yes, I am there and I'm a total beginner.
Total
yes.
beginner, right? And we have done. Are you also complete beginner?
A little bit.
Little bit? Okay. Anyone else who's complete beginner, 100% beginner? Okay. Magdalena? Right. Where are you from? Where are you joining from, Magdalena?
I'm from the Czech Republic.
Oh, you're also from Czech Republic. Nice, nice. Right. Yurka, we have a friend here from Czech as well. So amazing.
We actually are friends.
We
Oh, you are friends. I see. Okay. Alright, so I'm gonna, just for the sake of this exercise, I'm gonna require some of your support. So help me, okay, just to make sure that all of you are following. So just follow, say it with me, मैं हूँ, which is I am. Imagine this is your first time, interacting with a native Hindi speaker, and they don't know Czech or they don't know, English. So by default, you have to speak in Hindi. And you only know this pattern, मैं हूँ. You have to introduce yourself, okay? Just like in English, you will say I am, and you will say your name. So let's say if I want to say I am Ashu. In Hindi, you will say मैं Ashu हूँ. That's it. Although there are other ways of saying it, which is मेरा नाम, Ashu है, which is my name is Ashu. You can even say this as well, मैं Ashu हूँ. So you only know one pattern and you're just repeating on that. Okay. So I'm gonna write down about 3 or 4 different kind of sentences using this pattern, and I'm gonna ask each of you to either write it and or say it. Both ways fine. Okay. मैं आशु हूँ. Okay. The second thing, let's say you want to say your profession. So first thing, let's say it's name. This is how you will say your name, मैं आशु हूँ. Okay. Now let's say you want to say your occupation or profession. At this time, I don't expect you to know a good amount of vocabulary. So it's okay to use the English word. Right? Let's say you will say in English, I am a teacher. In Hindi, it's okay to say, मैं teacher हूँ. Okay? मैं आशु हूँ, मैं teacher हूँ. So you are talking about your profession. Okay? You can say, मैं teacher हूँ, मैं engineer हूँ, मैं doctor हूँ, मैं lawyer हूँ, based on whatever your profession is. Okay? Or you can say, मैं businessman हूँ or businesswoman हूँ. Okay? Whatever the profession is. Okay? So far so good. Inga, how will you say both of the sentences?
May Inga Hung. May retired Hung.
Amazing, amazing. मैं retired हूँ. I had this word in my mind and I'm glad you mentioned that. Okay, मैं retired हूँ. Great, great. Right? You can also say your interest. Let's say you are a traveler. You can say that as well. मैं traveler हूँ. Right? I'm a traveler. And we'll figure out, the Hindi word for all of these as well. So right now, don't get stuck on no, I need to say everything in Hindi. No, this is your first time. Nobody expects, like if I'm speaking in Czech, Yirka won't expect me to just say everything in Czech, right? He will be completely flexible, me using some of the different words as well, right? In fact, he will rather appreciate that I stick with simpler version of Czech. Okay, so we said about our name, we said about our profession. The third thing we can do with this pattern is we can talk about the country we are from or our nationality. Right? Nationality. So let's say I'm Italian, and I want to use this pattern. In English, you would say, I am Italian.
I'm Italian.
Okay. So how will you say that in Hindi? Let's say, done. How will you say that? You have to unmute yourself.
मैं Italian हूँ.
Very good. मैं Italian हूँ. Okay. What else? Can you say some more examples? Let's say someone is from France. I think I mute you accidentally. Then you have to unmute yourself again.
French हूँ.
Yeah, मैं French हूँ. And Magdalena, how will you say that?
मैं Czech हूँ.
मैं Czech हूँ. There you go, right? So you said three things already. Like मैं Magdalena हूँ, मैं student हूँ, or you can say मैं business woman हूँ, और मैं Czech हूँ. Okay, awesome. Hopefully I'm not going too fast and you guys are all following me. Inga, you are my reference. Okay, so if you think I'm going too fast, I'm gonna assume I'm going too fast. Okay, and you're too
I will
fast.
cry. Yeah, I will shout.
What? Good. So far good, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what else can you say with this pattern? You can say about your relationship or your role. Family relationships, that's the fourth one. You can say about family relationship, or you can say your role. Now, you will not really say it in every conversation, but given the context you are in, you should be able to use that pattern. Okay. Some of you can easily say, I'm a mother, or you can say I'm a sister, or husband, wife, or a daughter, right? So just like that, you will say for mother, you can say मैं mother हूँ और मैं माँ हूँ. Okay. You can say मैं sister हूँ और मैं एक बहन हूँ. Okay, I'm a sister, बहन हूँ. Okay. I'm a child. I am a child. So you will say that for child, मैं बच्चा हूँ. You can put ek, which is one, which is just like how you will say ek is one. Okay, मैं एक बच्चा हूँ. Okay, so let's see how else. Just like these 4 or 5 sentences we did. Tanya ji, you want to unmute yourself and share or tell us about yourself, your introduction. Louder, I think we cannot hear you. If you need more time or if you need to write it down, that's okay as well. So I think somehow the microphone is not working, but that's okay. You can write it. Why don't you write it and I'll read it out, okay? Don't worry about that. Don't stress out. You can write it. Yeah. Ash, you want to tell us about yourself, your introduction? Okay. Why don't you go Somer? You can say मैं American हूँ. That's completely okay. So Somer, you're going to use this pattern, मैं हूँ, and tell us about yourself.
मैं समर हूँ.
मैं समर हूँ.
मैं अमेरिका हूँ.
मैं अमेरिकन हूँ. Very good. मैं अमेरिकन हूँ.
मैं माँ हूँ.
मैं माँ हूँ. Okay, amazing.
मैं स्टूडेंट हूँ.
मैं स्टूडेंट हूँ. Amazing. Okay. So you see, she just used the pattern मैं हूँ. No need to go too advanced right now. That the same thing can be said differently, but right now she just used this pattern मैं हूँ. Okay, and she said 4 sentences about herself. Anyone else would like to practice it? You can type it, or you can raise your hands, and then I'm gonna ask you to unmute and share it. Vignesh, I know you joined a bit late, so I'm gonna give you some time to get acquainted, and then I'm gonna. Okay, go for it, Vignesh. It seems you are ready.
Sure, thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, मेरा नाम विघ्नेश है. मैं इंडिया से हूँ. मैं इंजीनियर से हूँ.
मैं इंजीनियर हूँ.
मैं इंजीनियर हूँ. मेरा फेवरेट शहर वॉशिंगटन डीसी हूँ.
Awesome. मेरा भी. Thank you so much. So you see, all of you using this pattern. So let's continue to build this pattern of मैं हूँ. Okay, and what else can we say with this pattern? Okay, you can also talk about your mood. Okay, let's say you are happy, or you're upset, or you're angry. So this is number 5. You can talk about your mood as well with this pattern मैं हूँ. Okay, so just like in English, you would probably say I'm excited. Okay, yeah, or you want to say I'm upset. Okay, मैं excited हूँ. And right now I don't expect you to know the Hindi word for this, so just stick with that. You can say मैं excited हूँ. Okay, or you can say मैं upset हूँ. If you know the Hindi word, very good. But if you don't know it, just say it English right now. Okay, मैं excited हूँ, मैं upset हूँ, or let's say you are satisfied. I'm satisfied. Okay, let's say you had a very nice meal. You are all invited at one of your friends' place, and they made a nice meal for you, and they ask you how are you feeling, and you're like मैं satisfied हूँ. Okay, मैं satisfied हूँ. Hindi word for that is santusht, but as I say right now, the expectation at least for beginners is to not get too hung up on the Hindi word. Okay, मैं satisfied हूँ. Any other moods you can think of that can be said in this pattern? Anyone else? Heidi? Yeah, Heidi? You want to unmute yourself and share your thoughts? Go for it. मैं खुश हूँ और मैं happy हूँ. You can say that. मैं happy हूँ. Anyone else? Simona ji? Can you think of any pattern? Yep.
I was practicing my writing.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't really pay attention.
No worries. Okay, no worries. Let's say you are okay. So if I give you the word, then you will know. Okay. Anyway, you can use any mood. मैं worried हूँ, which is मैं परेशान हूँ. You can say that. If you are restless, you can say मैं बेचैन हूँ और मैं restless हूँ. Okay. Essentially, any mood you can use it with this pattern.
Yeah, because they already said kush.
Yep.
Do you have some synonyms for kush? How can you?
How else can we say
in
it?
a different way?
Okay, let's see who else can share. She's saying how else to express your happiness. Are there any other words to show that you're happy? Just like any English word you can think of. Actually, any other English word you can think of.
Excited. Oh.
Excited is a word. Yeah, that's right. Excited. Elated.
Joyful.
Huh?
Joyful.
Joyful. Very good.
Joyful, yeah.
मैं joyful.
No, I was thinking in Hindi, not in English.
Yeah. So Hindi definitely there are many ways to say it, right? I mean, so मैं खुश हूँ. मैं प्रसन्न हूँ. Prasanna is another word, but that's more formal. Okay, आनंदित हूँ. Okay. So another word.
Can you use Suki?
That's right. Sukhi is another word, which is basically, what does it mean? Why don't you share it?
Is it also happy or not?
Yeah. मैं सुखी हूँ. Okay. So those are another words in Hindi. Okay. Let me take a quick pause here. Any questions so far?
I think there is santosh. मैं संतोष हूँ.
Okay. मैं संतुष्ट हूँ. If you want to
It's
just
also like content.
Yeah.
Contentment.
Yeah, so that's right. So if you want to just say मैं content हूँ, that's a different one. But the other ways, which is basically intermediate, advanced, would be मुझे, to me, there is संतोष. मुझे संतोष है. Okay? That's how you'll say it, right? But right now, again, like the idea is to just repeat this pattern. मैं हूँ. For मैं हूँ, you will say मुझे मैं संतुष्ट हूँ और मैं satisfied हूँ. Okay? But when we do the मुझको part, then you are absolutely right. You will say that. Okay? We'll do one more pattern for मैं हूँ. One more case, and then we'll switch to the new topic. So far we have learned about a name, nationality, profession, role, and your mood. Okay? The next thing you can do is basically you can talk about your appearance or your health, which is basically case number 6, appearance or health. Again, with the same pattern. What are some of the examples that we cover? Let's say you are tall. Okay, you are tall, you can say that. like I'm tall. Okay, मैं लंबा हूँ और मैं tall हूँ. Now, by the way, nobody asked me this question, but मैं हूँ pattern goes for both, regardless of whether you are, male or female. It goes with that. Hindi doesn't differentiate it. Okay, so you will still use the same pattern, both boys and girls. Okay, मैं हूँ. Okay, so मैं लंबा हूँ, I'm tall, I'm healthy. So you can say मैं healthy हूँ. Okay, you can say I am, if you are not feeling well, you can say मैं बीमार हूँ और मैं sick हूँ. Like you're visiting a remote town in India, and you visit a doctor, they will understand it if you just say मैं sick हूँ. Okay, or there the expectation is not there that you have to know the Hindi word for sick, but we'll learn that as well. Okay, so you can just say मैं sick हूँ. So just a quick recap. We learned to make 6 different kind of, simpler, very, very simple sentence using this pattern. मैं हूँ. Okay. I'm gonna ask some of you to volunteer, and whoever is ready, they can raise your hand and share your introduction. If you don't feel sharing just completely about yourself, you can make it up. Okay. Mimi, you want to unmute yourself? And if you need more time, that's completely fine, okay?
मैं मिमी हूँ, मैं HR हूँ,
Okay, मैं मिमी हूँ, मैं HR हूँ,
मैं वियतनामीज हूँ,
मैं वियतनामीज हूँ,
मैं एक वाइफ हूँ.
मैं एक वाइफ हूँ, amazing.
That's all I have.
Okay, you can talk about your mood.
मैं खुश हूँ.
मैं खुश हूँ, amazing, amazing. So you see that? Vujun, if you feel comfortable.
मैं वजून हूँ.
मैं वुजून हूँ. Louder.
मैं चाइनीज, मैं चीनी हूँ.
मैं चीनी हूँ.
मैं स्लिम.
Louder.
पतला.
Okay.
I just googled it. What did I look? मैं सन हूँ.
मैं सन हूँ. Okay, मैं एक बच्चा हूँ.
That's it.
Great, amazing. Okay, great. So I hope you were able to follow this pattern. So the homework exercise for you, for complete beginner, is to just practice, write down the different kind of sentences you can think of using this pattern. Write them down in your journal. Try to practice it with at least 2 or 3 Hindi speakers. Okay, just introduce yourself. The test is really to feel confident when you're speaking it. The test is not to kind of like test your Hindi at this point. It's just being natural, that at any point you should be able to introduce yourself with this pattern. Okay, so do that. मैं छोटी हूँ. Okay, great. So just test it out. And before I move on to the next topic, let me see if there are any good questions or comments on Facebook. Cynthia ji saying मैं हंगरी से हूँ, मैं ट्रिनिडाडियन हूँ, मैं रिटायर्ड हूँ. Amazing. Okay,